Whenever you have a good friendship or a great friendship, it's because there are particular ingredients that are present. And when those ingredients are not present, it makes it absolutely impossible to go deeper and further with that friend or with that group of friends. What I want to talk with you about today is how to develop the ingredients. And one particular ingredient, especially, that has to be present. It has to be present, and it's always present whenever you want to have a really good friendship with an individual or with a group of people. What I want to talk to you about is creating the ability in your own life to have so many friends and friendships that you actually, listen to this, you actually get to choose which friends and acquaintances you get to go deeper in your relationship with, which ones you get to develop over the course of your lifetime, and which ones that you can afford to actually say, you know what, that's not something I want to invest time in because it's a black hole. Now, I want to show you what this ingredient is, and then I want to show you how to make sure it's present in your relationships. I'm talking about active or empathic listening. I want to talk to you about what it is and why it's important. And then I want to show you how to actually begin to be an active or an empathic listener, okay? Your ability to be an amazing friend to other people and to attract great friends into your life is going to just skyrocket. It's going to take off. So let's jump right in. Let's talk about why active listening is so important. It's important because it reduces tension and it creates unity. It reduces tension and it creates unity. And in today's new world of disorder, you want to do all that you can to reduce the tension with the people in your family, the people at your workplace, even if you're working virtually or if you're working in an environment where you're face to face with people. The ability to reduce tension is paramount these days, and empathic or active listening is going to help you do that. Second thing it does is it builds trust. And today we're living in this new world of disorder where there is so much distrust. If you can increase your ability to be trusted by other people, they're going to come to you, they're going to flock to you, and they're going to do what? They're going to express themselves emotionally, and you're also going to have the opportunity to express yourself emotionally as well. And that's the third thing that empathic or active listening does. It enables the release and the sharing of emotions, and it does it in a healthy way. And that's really important today where there's so much release of emotional energy, pent up energy, but it's not being done in a healthy way. But empathic or active listening helps those emotions to be shared and released in a healthy way. It also, empathic or active listening also encourages understanding. Today, we're living in a world where people want to be heard, but they don't know how to listen. And then they wonder why people don't hear them. Empathic or active listening encourages understanding, which is absolutely, it's imperative to having a good friendship, a good relationship. Think back to any friendship that you have had, or maybe a friendship that you have now, that you would consider to be a best friendship, somebody with your best friend, your BFF, right? Or maybe a group of people where you really connect, and whenever you get together, you really enjoy that. Or maybe look back at your past and think about how you had that at one point in your life, but it's sorely missing. This is one thing that we need to realize about social media. It's good and helpful up to a point, but it is no replacement for genuine friendships and genuine likes. Real likes and real friends, they completely eclipse virtual friends and virtual likes. I'm telling you that's the case, and you know that that's true in your heart of hearts. Active or empathic listening encourages understanding. And finally, the fifth thing is that active empathic listening, it creates a synergy, it creates a safe place. You need to be, and you want to be, a safe place. Who wants to try to get together with somebody when you realize that it's not a safe place? That if you try to share, if you try to get a word in edgewise, if you try to express yourself emotionally, if you try to engage in collaboration, right? Or creativity, it just gets shut down. It just gets shut down. That's an example of the opposite of active or empathic listening and an environment. If that ingredient is missing, if you don't have a safe place where you can be creative, where you can share, you're not going to have unity in that friendship. You're not going to have unity in that relationship with a group of people. and you're not going to make progress. And really, when you stop and think about it, all of life, all of life is about making progress. If you're not making progress, you're stagnant or you're moving backward. So, a quick summary of why active or empathic listening is so important for you to develop the ability to have and to maintain good friendships. Number one, it reduces tension. It reduces tension and it reduces disunity. Number two, it builds trust. It builds trust and it nurtures trust. Number three, it enables emotional release, the exchange of emotional feelings, of emotional interaction. Number four, it encourages understanding. And number five, it creates a safe place where you can actually move forward together and really be united at a heart, mind, and a mission level. And we can all use that, can't we? So the big question is, how do you practice active listening? How do you do that so that this ingredient is present in your relationships so that they go from casual acquaintances to deeper relationships and perhaps even lifelong relationships? You know, so much of life is enjoyed or not enjoyed based on the quality or the lack of quality of our relationships with other people. So let's talk about the ingredients of how to actually practice active listening. Number one, the number one cardinal rule of active listening that's going to get you more real friends, real flesh and blood, in-person friends, is don't interrupt them when they're talking. Don't interrupt them when they're expressing their emotions. Don't interrupt them when they're processing. A lot of people are verbal people, and when they talk, they're simply listening to themselves as they talk and thinking and learning as they talk. So the number one rule is don't interrupt. So you have to be patient. Now here's a great passage of scripture, and you might not agree with scripture, but that's okay. Don't hold it against me. I won't hold it against you. James chapter 1 verse 19 says, each of you should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. I refer to it as quick, slow, slow. And this is great to remember in regard to active or empathic listening. Be quick, slow, slow. Quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. The anger is always a result if you haven't been a good listener, if the other person hasn't been a good listener, and especially if you have interrupted the other person or they have interrupted you. So number one rule of empathic or active listening is do not interrupt the other person or the other people. You have to listen. Number two, pay attention. Pay attention as the other person is speaking. One of the things I do with myself is I pretend that after this conversation, I'm going to have a quiz. I'm going to be quizzed. And I want to be able to pass that test, which means if I know I'm going to be quizzed at the end of a conversation, I am going to especially pay attention. See, that's a great mind hack that you can do with yourself. If you pretend that at the end of this conversation, at the end of this discussion, I'm going to be quizzed on my knowledge of what was actually shared, your listening is going to go through the roof in great ways. So don't interrupt. Number two, make sure that you pay attention. Number three is ask questions that are open-ended. Don't ask questions that are just questions that have a yes or no answer. Ask questions that encourage the other person to give more than a one-word answer, more than a yes or a no answer. Questions like, so tell me how that made you feel. So tell me what your thoughts are about that. See how it takes more than a yes or no to be able to answer that? You see how when you ask those kinds of questions, or when you make those kinds of statements that seem to be questions, right? They're not necessarily questions in and of themselves, but they're stated in such a way that they are implied or inferred as questions, and they bring the other person in. They draw them in at an emotional level, and that's really important. So don't interrupt. Make sure that you pay attention, ask open-ended questions, and be sensitive. Sensitivity is really important. Did you know that more than 90% of communication is non-verbal? More than 90%, which means it's not just the words that you share. It's also your vocal inflection. It's your eye contact or your lack of eye contact. It's your body language. Yep. I hear exactly what you're saying, but you don't want to hear what the other person's saying. Crossed arms can often indicate somebody shutting down and doesn't want to hear it. Be careful that you don't judge and make assumptions, because crossed arms can also mean that it's cold in the room or outdoors and the person is trying to keep themselves warm. So be careful that you don't make assumptions. And that comes down to this whole idea of being sensitive. Your eye contact or your lack of eye contact, your head nodding, your I hear you, I feel you, wow, really? Those types of comments can communicate volumes. Communicate volumes. Remember, you're going to be quizzed after the conversation, so you want to pay attention. And remember, the objective is to really hear the other person at a heart level, at an emotional level. The more you do that, the more they're going to open up. And then finally, the fifth and most important thing, which helps seal the deal. Because at the end of any conversation, the real question is, did the other person or did the other people really hear me? Did they really understand me? See, it's one thing to hear somebody, it's another thing to understand somebody. And this is a huge lack in today's society, where we hear with our ears, but we don't understand with our hearts. And this is where quick, slow can really help you tremendously. Be quick to listen at an understanding level. Be slow to speak and be slow to become angry. Usually in conversations, when anger begins to arise, it's because one of the processes of active or empathic listening has been absent. One or more has been absent. So mirroring is very important, meaning as that person's sharing and after they're sharing, if you've listened and you're ready to pass the quiz, you should be able to re-explain to them exactly what they shared with you, not at just a verbal level, but at an emotional level. Use their language and express back to them. Be a mirror to them. If you do that, if you are somebody who doesn't interrupt, if you're somebody who pays attention, if you are somebody who asks open-ended questions, if you're somebody who is really sensitive to them and your nonverbal communication is with them and following them, and you mirror back to them to the point where you're able to make the case that they just made to you, you will have no difficulty at all creating deep friendships and perhaps lifelong friendships that other people would absolutely envy. So I hope this has helped you understand the importance of active listening and how to practice it in your own lives. If you like this video, I'd encourage you, would you please subscribe? I'd be honored, and it would help me to continue to put out more content like this. Comment below if you would as well, and also, would you like it? And share it with the people in your life. I bet you know at least one person, perhaps a group of people, who need to learn the lost art of active or empathic listening. God bless you. Keep looking up. There's no place else worth looking, and keep moving forward.